Thank you so much. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. And, what a great conversation to have. And I think we've got some more content in my panel coming up, right, Samantha, that will tag into some of the stuff that you're talking about. So that's really great. But before Alina leaves, and I see Ben's joined us for the first time on stage.
Hi,
Ben, yeah, we wanted to share a little bit of news because, and I think Terry's coming on the stage too. Is that right, Ben? We wanted to just do a quick hello with some of the people that are going to be a part of the AWE stage in Santa Clara in November. So we really wanted to share that we'll be doing a very special panel with the four of us, and it will be called Stereoscopic Ar in WebXR. And Terry, do you want to share just give everybody a sneak preview of what we're going to be doing?
Well, I'm a big believer in showing the technology when I'm talking about it. So we've got a couple of demonstrations that we're putting together. I can't share which one yet because we're still trying to make them work, but we intend to show the technology in action to demonstrate its value. And that's the key thing, walking the walk while we talk the talk.
Absolutely. So hopefully, everybody that's listening today will join us in real life, IRL, on stage, and it'll be great to meet up with Alina and Ben. I've met Terry before, but believe it or not, Alina and Ben and myself never met before in real life. So
I can't wait for that. And to make it easier for anybody who wants to go to AWE in real life, our partner for this event, AWE, gave us a coupon code of WebXR AWE 20, so that will give you 20% off of whatever the ticket is when you buy it. They sort of are phasing out early bird things, so check awexr.com to get your tickets. But please come and join us. We want to meet you in real life. We can't wait for this. So I want to thank every single panelist who's been on today. What an incredible run we've had today. I'm just overjoyed for what we've seen and heard and talked about today, and can't wait to do it again at the WebXR Design Summit on October 12th. And so with that, hello, Ritesh. Good to see you. I missed you backstage. Forrest, good to see you. Everybody have a great panel, and Alina and I will take our leave now. So take care.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, no, hold on, Alina. You didn't say anything. You want to say anything about the AWE panel there?
Yeah, tell us the secrets.
I'm excited. Can't wait for it. Stay tuned, guys. We've got really some great ideas, so I hope I'll be able to join you and guys in the US. We have to see. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. It's all about innovation.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Amazing.
Have a good panel.
Thanks, Alina.
Disrupt.
Bye.
We will start disrupting. As a matter of fact, I think it's already been disrupted.
Exactly.
It was disrupted before we even started. So there you are, right?
Exactly. Well, I'm so looking forward to our conversation today. Thank you all for joining us. Let's do a quick round the table introductions and let's get into it. Our topic today is anticipating disruption. Let history be our guide. And I know there's lots of conversation. So why don't we go around? Terry, do you want to start with an introduction for yourself?
Sure. The senior director of spatial computing at Deutsche Telekom, been there several years, pushing on the head-worn devices and enabling technologies. I work with our network team to try to figure out ways that we can help the users that we have in our customer base to transition from a heads-down society to a heads-up society. That's my mission statement.
Nice. I like it. What about you, Ritesh?
Ritesh Patel. I recently joined Fin Partners after 7 years at Ogilvy. I am the chief global head of digital and senior partner of the firm, and we focus primarily. My motto is, if it moves, digitize it. I've been doing that for 20 years. So anytime I see something, I try and digitize it as much as possible. So there you are.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And Forrest.
Yeah. I am a co-founder and chief product officer of Pluto VR. Our purpose is to help humanity transcend physical locations. So no matter where you are, you can connect, collaborate, and communicate with other people as if you're in person.
Well, that just sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Easy.
Easy. And again, my name is Julie Smithson. I'm the co-founder of Metaverse. Metaverse, I know, is the word that everybody's talking about today, but we kind of named our company back in 2016. And Metaverse is a game engine, 3D game engine that works directly on the web. Our mission is to make the design process really easy and code optional. And we've been really busy working on projects for clients. And I guess I'll segue this conversation into disruption. And for myself, working hands-on with clients from all different levels of business, enterprise, and really seeing the back-end disruption that's taking place of understanding how to implement XR into their strategies. And maybe Terry, if you want to kick us off with just some of the experiences that you have had coming from Deutsche Telekom and seeing all of this history unfold, and now obviously the catalyst of COVID taking place with all of the businesses and all. I can't even imagine the amount of boardroom meetings. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And how many there are out there, and how much education is taking place right now on a daily basis, including ourselves, including our community, trying to match up and figure out and put everything into play. So why don't we start with you, Terry?
Sure. I mean, I think education is an interesting, key word to pivot on here, because it is been my mission to educate our leadership on the possibilities of what cutting edge devices and enabling technologies could allow us to deliver in terms of customer experience and user experience. And we started with the more traditional B2B focus because the return on investment is more concretely measurable. And now today remote field support is sort of a commoditized AR use case that everybody understands. To measure the first time fix rate and to understand the business impact of enabling first time fix to be successful when somebody goes out in the field to work on a piece of equipment or to help a customer. So now we're moving into a little bit more of a complicated scenario where the ROI is much more indirect and a little bit harder to communicate. So we have to get a little bit more involved in the weeds of explaining, the value proposition of the technologies that we utilize to deliver services to our customers and how those translate into an ROI for the customer, first. And then ultimately, how does that create a business opportunity for us? So I've been focused a lot on the idea that most augmented reality experiences have been what I call momentary or novelty AR experiences, where I hold a phone and I turn the camera on and I have a 10 to 15 second interaction experience, placing a digital object against the floor or on top of a desk or something. And how do we get to an environment where people are utilizing augmented reality for time durative use cases where it's 30 minutes to 2 hours long and I'm really immersed in it, and it's more than just this really narrow band media experience, but a very significant, maybe it's vertical, but very significant experience that I'm using. And how head-worn devices are going to be the enabler for that, because nobody ergonomically wants to hold a phone out at arm's length. I challenge people at conferences to hold their phone while they're videoing me, out like this for 5 minutes, and they won't do it for 15 seconds. So imagine that you're also looking at the world through the camera on your display. You have about a 5-degree field of view relative to your normal view of the world. So it's like I'm looking through a paper towel roll through the world, and it's just not the right experience. So what we're really focusing on now is how do we transform the value proposition of the network to all-day wearables, where we have a series of 5 to 15 second interactions as vignettes of content experiences that flow throughout the day, and also these more time durative immersive experiences where I'm really just in this thing. I'm at a sporting event, or I'm taking a class, or I'm doing something that I'm really focused on, I'm mindful about. And so those are really two different classes of use cases, and the devices that serve one don't serve the other. And so we are looking and exploring on how that we enable those different devices that are coming to the table to be able to leverage the network and build the best value of user experience we can.
Amazing, amazing. Ritesh,
We should,
yeah,
we should
please
get
go ahead.
we should get Terry a selfie stick, the 6-foot one. I'll send
Never.
it to
Longer.
I won't
Just
do
see
it.
you walking
Just take
around
a
with a
picture.
selfie stick, you know. Look, did you see the Carolina Panthers and what they did at opening day? Right?
Yeah.
Incredible stuff. So you're right. There are some consumer apps that wow and get people jazzed about this stuff. I think, you know, from my perspective, I've been applying it mainly on the business side. I haven't really done much on the consumer side. I had some colleagues who did something with IKEA. We've been doing that for a while, you know, place your furniture here, see how it looks, and then buy it right there and then. So AR combined with commerce, so you can actually physically see the thing in your living room and then literally press a button on your phone, takes you to a commerce site where you can buy, put it in the cart, and off you go. I've looked at it more from a, as you said, we worked with a shipping company, their innovation group, on looking at these technologies and what could be applied. One area is around training. So they had physical people going out to these remote locations. This company, Wallenius Wilhelmsen, basically takes the car from the production line, and they own the entire supply chain. So they own the person who gets the car, gets all the options set up, puts it on the truck. They own the truck. They own the ship. They own the truck on the other end, and the guy delivers it to the woman, delivers it to the dealership. So we used mixed reality. Works out really well. Now they don't have an army of trainers. You put the HoloLens on, there's a headphone, you connect to a central place in Oslo if you need some help. But otherwise, as you're going through your cycle and you want to be trained to do something as an option for a car or on an engine, you just basically flip up that piece of content. It tells you exactly what to do. If you get stuck, you press a button. A call goes out to the center in Oslo that says, hey, I need help. So the trainers are now centrally located. The ROI on that is enormous, because now they don't have human beings basically in every plant around the world. They have 30 trainers doing 24/7 in Norway, right? The training is immersive, completely immersive. It works out really, really well. So it's those kinds of things that we've been working on to see, is there a way we can use this kind of tool set to change how business actually operates? And what can we do from an operational efficiency or a gain in employee satisfaction or education or those kinds of things? I think that's where some of this will go, rather than the, you know, and we'll still have the entertainment stuff, right? We'll still have, you know, tigers jumping off buildings and that sort of thing. I think more and more we're heading more towards that immersive experience. And I think most of it in my world is mixed reality oriented. In the hospitals, instead of, you know, entering data on your laptop, you now have a Google Glass. It's been repurposed. It's connected to the EHR system. So the doctor is looking at you, but they're also pulling up your chart, right? Things like that. I think that's where we're sort of seeing some really interesting benefits of this entire ecosystem that's being put together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to come back to that, because I think that WebXR will obviously lead to preventative medicine and a lot more, you know, a lot more things along that line. But I want to give Forrest a chance to jump in and just talk a little bit about what you're seeing, what, you know, disruption on your end, and some of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, so I think, Terry, I really appreciate your perspective too, talking about these little discrete examples, these little tiny apps, and how they're these short little experiences. And the lens that we really have is that, you know, when we look at the disruption, historical disruption of computing, if you go back to the early days of the personal computer, you had DOS, you had disk operating system, where you put in a floppy disk and then that was your app. And this idea of having a single app at a time. And businesses were clearly developing use cases. There was clearly business value. There was clearly gaming value. I used to play on my dad's Apple IIe, where I'm putting in little floppy disks and playing one game at a time. But like, it wasn't until we actually hit the first GUI, right? We actually had a graphical user interface that had multitasking that the PC industry really took off. And that's really where our focus is looking at this as a transitional moment of computing, where we've been in this DOS single app mentality, and we're transitioned to a multitasking, multi-app mentality. And I think everyone sees it, right? When you think about mixed reality and you think about AR, you're like, of course, there's going to be all sorts of different apps and stuff in my world. But right now, the technology is still limited to that sort of one app at a time. And so the way we've been doing this is right now, Windows and the PC is the only ecosystem that really supports this fully in an open open ecosystem way where you could run native apps on Unity or Unreal, or you could be running WebXR on a WebXR enabled browser. But the problem is that there are very limited headsets that actually support this, or you're tethered to a PC. And so that's why we're leveraging the network. We're leveraging 5G and edge computing to be able to stream a high-end PC to any XR device. So whether it's a Quest or a HoloLens or even a Magic Window tablet, you're able to take this multitasking spatial computing environment and make it accessible to anyone, anywhere, as long as you have internet connectivity. And I think that's where we're seeing the most disruption, which is the idea of, instead of one developer making the metaverse, it is a series of different apps made by different people and different developers that a user can access and use, like, all together at once in one spatial environment.
Yeah, I highly agree with that.
Atari. I had an Atari with a cassette player, just so you know. That was my first interface. So anyway, sorry, Terry.
That's great.
Well, I was going to say, I highly agree. I think one of the things that I've been positing for a number of years is that we are, as we transition from heads down handset interactions to heads up HMD based interactions, we're going to also have to rethink the way we build software. And instead of having monolithic app experiences, we're going to have a set of contextualized, personalized services that actually are forced to interoperate with each other. You know, as it is right now on a mobile phone, based on the way the OSs are built, it's really hard, even if I build, as the developer, build two separate apps, it's really hard for me to make those two apps interoperate with each other in a concurrent way. And that has to change. So, you know, I want to be able to use the best of what we currently have as monolithic mobile apps. I want to take the best presentation of navigation for car travel, the best, you know, routing, you know, service, the best text to speech service. And I want to bundle those together to my personalized liking, instead of just being forced into one monolithic user experience. And so absolutely, that's going to be the future. So WebXR is a really key tool for enabling this, because it helps us break out of the silo of the OSs into a layer that we can create this sort of interoperability. And it's fundamental into the context of what the web is about.
But don't you think, Terry, I mean, session management on the mobile device has now been basically figured out, right? I can start here, go there based on my ID and how I interact. And do you want to carry on going forward? So I can start on a desktop browser, continue on the mobile browser, and then continue in my car, right? Surely we can look at that kind of interaction because of the interoperability issues we have with WebXR at the moment. Could we not do something like that? I've been talking to people like Akamai who have a CDN network already for content, right? Sure, they have the infrastructure. You guys have the infrastructure at Deutsche Telekom. There's pieces of Cloud XR out there anyway, right? Can't we put all those together and focus on that while Forrest and team and people like him are looking at these apps and putting those together? There should be an underlying infrastructure that could be created fairly quickly, I think.
I think if you look at the context of microservices and the idea of a microservice gateway where, you know, I can create a front end that can connect to a bunch of discrete services that can run in the cloud infrastructure, you know, to keep it very simple, you know, it's not difficult for me to build two web apps that can utilize those kinds of services and exchange data in a protected, secure manner.
Yeah.
But trying to do that through that same fluid interaction model between multiple apps on a mobile device is problematic, because all I have is deep linking and some other very kind of janky scenarios that I can use to exchange data in real time. And so the sandboxing problem of the OSs, especially the mobile OSs, really creates a ton of friction and for the user experience as well as the developers.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem we're working to solve, and that is the exact challenge, right? And so that I had mentioned that we actually have an early kind of WebXR launcher that enables you to take multiple discrete WebXR applications and run them at the same time. Right now, the standards don't support multiple WebXR sessions at the same time, but we're sort of bootstrapping that, and then we'll be contributing that up to standards as they become available. But clearly, we're going to have multi-tabs. Like, you know, how many times do you use a web browser where you only have one window open and you don't have multiple tabs? It's clearly the direction. But how we get there, you know, we're going to be limited by the constraints around the mobile devices. Like, if you try to run, in our multi-app launcher, you try to run multiple WebXR applications at the same time in the Oculus browser, and performance just tanks. Like, you can't do it yet.
And then I'm going to jump back in here and just kind of ground us on the disruption piece, because my role in what I do on a daily basis is actually dealing with business from a level of figuring out, okay, well, we have to attach it to this learning system, and we have to stay within the walled garden of the enterprise level. These conversations that you guys are having are great for, curating a marketing experience where you don't need any of those barriers. But through enterprise, some of the lessons that I'm dealing with and learning, it's about those procurement levels. First of all, you have to pass the technical, you have to pass the security, you have to pass the financial and all the documentation. And when you get to that security level, this is where you guys come in and build that proper garden that can be viewed from, whichever point, but that has to clear tower that they can leave that walled garden. And what does that look like? So, these are some of the lessons that I'm trying to help and educate my clients about, that because it's disrupting their entire flow of how they've been doing things for years and years, especially when it comes to training. And they already have a lot of these systems already set up in their world, in their enterprise company, and then they come along and they create an interactive experience that for us it's a web link, but they can't have that web link in there. So this is where having these multiple experiences and multiple links pull up and not create chaos and havoc in an entire global organization is happening. So I'm not sure if any of you, or even Terry from Deutsche Telekom's point of view, how does that roll out?
Well, I mean, I have a long, maybe too long history in software development, and before the year, sort of after the dinosaurs came and before the microcomputer was commoditized, somewhere in there.
I can beat you, Terry.
Yeah,
I remember lugging a PC into a client's office and saying, "Here, that's the internet," and then.
Yeah,
we had to load it on the machine because they didn't have the internet. So we had to do a local version and drag the PC to them, right? It's crazy.
But the point I wanted to make, though, is that the software I built was commercial software shipped in a box with a printed manual and floppy disks. And, back in the day, we would define the legal agreement that the user would adhere to through what's called the EULA, an end user license agreement, which ironically would always be shrink wrapped outside the box under the shrink wrap. And it'd have a sticker that says, when you open the shrink wrap, you're accepting the terms of the EULA that you can't read because it's under the shrink wrap. And we've switched to this muscle memory with mobile apps and digital applications with terms and conditions to the point where it's kind of a joke, right? Like the iTunes term and conditions turned into a 53-page comic book. Because it was such a hilarious experience to parody it. But the reality is that transition of user terms and conditions is going to get disrupted in a digital WebXR context. And that's where we need to lean into smart contracts and have a way to standardize what those terms and conditions mean and whether or not I'm comfortable accepting the points of that without being a lawyer. So that's a huge opportunity. It ties into also the idea of our digital presence and what we are comfortable allowing our digital presence to do and have done to it when it moves around inside of metaverses. So I think that's a really big opportunity. It's the same way that the Wolf 3D company with Ready Player Me has disrupted and standardizing through partnering activities, the visual aspects of a person's digital presence. Now we can start to look at breaking the bonds of the past with the legal and data privacy aspects that are first and foremost right now. I'm wearing a device that everybody's talking about because they're concerned about the reputation of the company and its history with data privacy and data collection. And they're working very hard to kind of overcome that. And there's, a lot of practical work that they've done in that regards, but we still don't have standard ways for us to identify what we're comfortable with and align that to what somebody's asking of us. And that to me is really going to be a key next piece that we have to tackle as part of this disruptive move to deliver non-siloed applications in WebXR.
We have a saying at Metaverse that we meet the client and discover the terms of satisfaction. And that statement, I can't even begin to tell you how many times I've used it in the past couple of weeks, because even one of the contracts that we have, we've had to go back and go, because of things happening in the background that are beyond our Metaverse control, and it was actually client-based, couldn't take place because security systems, procurement systems. So what is that term of satisfaction of delivery if that client can't match up with your technology? And that's happened several times, and it's going to continue to happen if, when the walled gardens get too tall, or there's another service in there that has to be linked in with, with the experience that you're delivering. So really working with the client and having them understand the innovation process, to me, has been a big learning journey, to educate my client on, this is how we're managing your CADs and the process that it's taking to optimize them for WebXR. And, again, communication, I think that's the key word here, communication with your client and making sure that your client's ready to travel on that journey with you.
But Julie, I think it's more than that. Part of this is because it's so new and unique. Half the time when I mention the word, people go, what the heck is that? Then you have to go back, right? And you say, okay, Metaverse, let me just give you a real world example kind of thing. So I think what we're being measured by in this new world that we're entering in is old standards, and we've got to start looking at how are we going to create these new ways of engaging so that the privacy model and the data privacy model you're applying to your old way of working is not going to apply here. And this is the new world we've got to get to. I think that's one of the bigger issues that we face. I do this all the time around, this is what this means, and this is what you're going to have to change. It's a mindset change. It's not a process change as well.
Absolutely, but unfortunately, mindsets do take several board meetings to change that.
But I'll tell you, the Millennium stuff, because when we did it as a small pilot in Lafayette, Indianapolis, Indiana, and then we showed it to the board and the CEO. They were all over it. So sometimes it's taking Forrest's little, here, let me take this use case, let me show it to you, and then now let me show you how you can scale it. Maybe that's the way to do it, right? In some cases.
Absolutely. It comes back to the ROI and what I call ROX, return on experience, as well. I'm watching our time because I want to make sure we're not cut off, but I would love for each of you to give a little bit of a history lesson to our audience. I'm all about lessons and sharing. And, maybe Forrest, if you want to share some insight from your world to our audience, and, what history have you experienced that you want everybody else to know about?
I mean, I think when it comes to disruption, most of the times things change in a way that no one sees coming. And that's sort of the whole point about disruption. And so based on our experience and what we've been seeing, the biggest element that a lot of people aren't seeing coming is that this fundamental, with spatial computing, with WebXR, we are talking about fundamentally disrupting the App Store model. And if you look at the largest companies in the world, many of them are driven by the App Store model. And so with that, I think the idea that you can just take a 30% cut of, distributing software, that is going to be changed. And especially as you get to this, metaverse of interconnected software built by different people, often, you connected to maybe a blockchain or some other distributed network, you can't just sit there and take a 30% cut on everything. And that's just going to completely change the entire landscape.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that decision last Friday from the judge on Apple's Apple versus Epic, that's a whole conversation. And I can see Samantha's here, so that means our time's almost up. But I want to leave Ritesh and Terry, please. Ritesh, go for it.
Yeah, very quickly for me, I'll use a saying that was done by the founder of agency.com back in 1994, which is figure out what sucks and don't do that.
It works for me.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I just think right now I'm trying to focus people on being present with each other and practicing mindfulness. I've learned a lot from following Caitlin Krause and her work in that space, and being mindful of each other has become really, really important as we transition from an either or proposition I'm either paying attention to in the real world or I'm looking at my phone, to an anded proposition where I can have the digital context and have the real world context. And in fact, it's the real world context that takes dominant value proposition in that. And that's what it should be. You know, we live in this world as human beings on the earth. We should be exchanging in the real world as much as we possibly can, and letting the digital be really augmenting that experience, not taking away.
Back to our website for details on that and the Design Summit as they unfold.
That's so cool. So this is a great, like, you know, we just saw some top talent here. So I hope you were taking notes on like who your favorites are, because the polys are run by the community. Like we all vote on each other. We all support each other. So this is a really great opportunity to highlight the experiences you like, highlight the hard work your friends have done, especially, you know, I think a lot of us know each other deeply and see the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into these projects on the back end. And that's why I just admire everybody on this from the WebXR Summit team so much, because you're all volunteering your time to help recognize each other in this space. And it's truly an honor to be brought in and be recognized among you, because the work that you put in is just literally countless hours behind the scenes, and it really shows, because look at the event that we have today. So kudos to you, incredible women in XR. I'm so honored to be among you.
Yes, thank you. I'm really excited for the Design Summit, AWE, the polys that are coming up. You know, XR Women, get out there and nominate yourselves. It's okay to nominate yourself, nominate other people. And we're here, XR Women, from the XR Women community. We meet every Wednesday in iLearn campus of Burbella. And then speaking of Burbella, actually, we have Gabe Baker coming on next from Frame. So I think it's time to introduce him as the finale guest for this evening.
Yeah, it's such a great end to the show, because what Frame is doing is so freaking exciting.
Hi, Gabe.
Hello. It's great to be here.
Great to have you. We're going to step away and let you guys chat, but thanks so much for being here, and hopefully we'll see you at the after party after this session.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank you so much, Samantha. Thank you, Julie, for hosting today. You guys did such an amazing
here.
Great job all around, guys. Yeah.
Very well done.
Yeah.
All right. See you later.